Okay, welcome to our second Community Energy Forum. This is our second in a series of presentations. We may be running more into the new year, but that really depends on demand and COVID, etc. We did this because of COVID, etc. So we may try to run some in-person things, but we'll be discussing that over the Christmas break and see where we head in the new year. First of all, some for the night. The session is being recorded and will be available soon for those who couldn't make it tonight, or if you wanted to catch up on particular parts of the video. We will take questions after all the four presenters have completed their talks. There's a Q&A at the bottom, so please just click on the Q&A and put your questions in there. We'll be looking for input from you at the end. First of all, and very importantly, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting tonight. In my case, the Wadawurrung people. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. Participants may like to introduce themselves in the chat, noting their own traditional owners of their area. Okay. What is the Community Power Hub? The Community Power Hub is a continuation of a program that started over 3 years ago. This program is funded by Sustainability Victoria. Its purpose is to identify potential community energy projects. We will then evaluate complete feasibility and help implement those projects. The CPH is run by Breeze, Ballarat Renewable Energy and Zero Emissions, which is a not-for-profit environmental group. As well as the several volunteers, we now have 2 staff who I'll introduce later on in the session. What type of projects are CPH projects? All types, from solar panels for community centres, solar and maybe batteries for social housing. Not only do we want to generate power, but we can also organise energy audits to see how the community can save power. In our last webinar, we concentrated on larger projects. Tonight, we want to talk about the smaller projects. What we want to do tonight is to inspire you to contact us with your projects. We don't care what size your project is, your experience, your knowledge. What we do want is enthusiasm and in willingness to work with us to bring your ideas to life. We have 3 speakers tonight, all of which have worked with Breeze through our different programs to successfully implement solar installations in their area of expertise. We'll finish up the program by introducing you to our recently appointed project manager. Our first speaker tonight is Matt Valance. I first ran into Matt as part of the Breeze's Social Solar Program. One of the aims of Breeze's Social Solar Program, which has been running since 2016, was to improve social inequity by giving access to solar power to areas of the community that will not normally have access to it. The Breeze community made tax-deductible donations to the Social Solar Fund. We use these funds as seed funding, and then with donations from local, state, federal and other philanthropic organisations, we helped not-for-profits in the Ballarat region investigate and install solar on their buildings. Matt, who works at the McCullum Industries, has been one of these beneficiaries of the Social Solar Program. Matt will share with us his experience and what it's meant to his organisation. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much for having me tonight, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay. I'm hoping everyone can now.
Yeah, that's fine.
See that? Beautiful. So, sorry,
it's just gone black on me. So can someone else confirm? That's better.
I work for McCullum. McCullum Disability Services is the parent company, and we're based in Ballarat and St Arnaud. I first met the guys from Breeze back in 2017, I think it was, and they've helped us with a number of projects, which I'll go into very shortly. But first, I thought I'd give you a bit of an introduction as to who McCallum is. So McCallum's a not-for-profit organisation. We were founded in 1953 by Robert Austin McCallum. He sadly passed away back in 1982, but his wife is still with us. She turned 101 on Monday. So she's a remarkable woman as well. So when we were first founded, it was mainly focused on providing children with disability and their family support. That lasted until about 1980, where the Department of Education actually took over the child support of people with disability. And that's now what we know as the Ballarat Specialist School in Gilly Street. So that the special school wouldn't have existed if McCallum hadn't started in 1953, or it would exist in a different format right now. So from 1981 to present, we focused on providing adults with disability with support. So we provide in Ballarat and St Arnaud, we provide over 400 people with support, and that's a range of different things. Accommodation being one of them. So that's accommodation in our own homes that McCallum own, and homes that are owned by the government. We also offer day programs. So people come to our centres and they do activities in groups. We offer in-home support, so one-to-one support. So you might have a son or a cousin or someone who requires some help in the morning getting ready for work or something like that, and our employees would come in and help them have a shower, get brekkie, get into a cab and head off to employment or head off to their day programs. We also offer employment, and we employ about 120 people with disability, and that's soon to change. We're about to merge with BRI, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But we employ about 300 people, full-time employees across Ballarat and St Arnaud. So we're a large organisation. And we've noticed since COVID that there's been a massive increase in demand for support services. And that's due to a few things, but one of the larger reasons is because we've got a lot of the people we support, they look after, or their parents still look after them, and a lot of them are aging. So some of their parents are in their 80s, in their 90s, and they just can't, they figured out through COVID that they just can't take care of their children anymore, who are 40, 50, in a full-time capacity. So we've actually had a massive increase in demand in the last 18 months. So as I mentioned before, McCallum is about to merge with Ballarat Regional Industries. So a lot of you may have heard of BRI. That will be approved at our AGM, or it should be approved at our AGM next Thursday. And then that merger will start as of December 1. That'll add a further 250 employees to our organisation. And it'll offer massive benefits for the people we support, because it'll be a fully integrated service then. These people who are working for BRI in the employment space, that's the only support that access to integrated services such as day programs, accommodation, and things like that. So our revenue for this financial year should exceed about $30 million, which is about 100% increase on 6 years ago. So we've grown massively in 5 years due to the NDIS. So we've got a new strategic plan that's coming out, well, be approved at the AGM as well. And it's based on a number of pillars, but the main ones are around specialised housing. So there's a huge demand and a lack of specialised housing in Ballarat and the Central Highlands regions. And we're also working on one of the other key pillars, which is young adult training and work experience. So you'll see the picture there of the golden opportunity. So this is a concept that we're about to launch in the coming months with the Golden Nugget, where we will actually set up our own roadside trailer selling the Golden Nuggets product, but training our people that we support in money handling, food handling, customer service, and the like. So that's an exciting project we've got coming up very shortly. So why I'm here tonight to talk to you is about the help that we've had from Breeze over the past sort of 4 or 5 years. And there's a number of major projects that they helped us with, and a smaller one. But without Breeze, we would not have been able to, or we wouldn't have delivered any of the 4 projects that you see there. So one of them was a house we built in 2018, which John Van Ruden, who is with SV now, he was critical to that project, and he helped us reach a 10-star efficiency rate. Solar panels on the roof, but with his advice and his help, we also managed to reach 10-star efficiency, which was fantastic. And we just wouldn't have done that without Breeze's help. The second project was an installation of 40 kilowatts at McCallum Industries. So McCallum Industries is based in Sturt Street in Alfredton. And again, that was a government grant that we received, but Breeze helped us write the submission. And without their knowledge and their analysis, it just wouldn't have happened. We didn't have the resources at the time. And again, John Van Ruden played a massive part in that, and so did Peter Reid. The next project was 80 kilowatts plus a battery. And so that was, we've got an 8-unit complex in Alfredton. So that provided, I think I've got a photo on the next slide. Next one, it's this one here. So the units down the bottom here, you can see in red. So that's a solar installation there that was helped with Breeze, plus a unit in St Arnaud, and the St Arnaud unit also had a battery included in that. So it was an $80,000 grant that Breeze helped us receive. And the other one there you can see with the red box around it, that was a McCallum initiated project. That's 30 kilowatts that we put on our day centre. So I'll just go back a couple. So yeah, that's the McCallum HQ one, which we initiated ourselves with our own funding. So I thought it'd be interesting to show the McCallum Industries case study, the second install that Peter Reid and John Van Ruden helped us with. So it was installed in May 2019, and the government grant was for $49,500. Now the graph, you might not be able to see it and make it out too well, but basically what it's, and we've already saved nearly $26,000 in electricity costs, and obviously huge environmental savings as well. So like if we were to pay for it out of our own money and our board was chasing me up on a return on investment, it'd be very easy to prove to them that in 2.5 years, we've received more than our investment back. So really, really good stuff. And what that means is we can invest that money, that $26,000, back into services for people, vulnerable people or people with disability, into other services such as employment, accommodation, day programs and the like. So that was really good. So that's the project I showed before. The other thing we're doing, it's not approved yet by the board, but we're working on an environmental policy as well. So that will mean we'll have a raft of deliverables in that, but one of them is changing all of our fleet over to hybrid vehicles. So if you can get your hands on one at the moment, I've been trying to order one through Toyota and they're telling me it's about a 12-month wait. So our fleet will slowly move over to hybrid, which is pretty exciting as well. So this is our latest house that we built. This house was completed in May last year. And this house is about to have 8 kilowatts of solar installed on it. And again, that's out of our learnings that we've had from Breeze. It's not a joint project with Breeze, but from the learnings we had with them with other projects, we're going to install them on that house in the next month or two. These two houses had their slabs poured this morning, and they'll be built over the next 6 months. These houses also will have anywhere between 6 and 10 kilowatts installed on the roof, as well as battery. So once we get all those solar panels will occur as well. And again, not that it's a joint project with Breeze, but it's initiated because of the help we've had from Breeze in the past. We've seen the benefits from it. And so they're really exciting projects that'll take place very shortly. And that's pretty much everything I've got. So I'll hand back to Paul.
You're on mute, Paul.
Sorry. Thanks, Matt. I love the fact that we've trained you up to go and build your own houses and stuff now. And that's the whole purpose, is to spread the expertise around and get it out there in the community, because as with everyone, we'll push for time and we want people to be self-supported. So that's good. And it's also exciting that you're joining with BRI, because I know we've also done some work with BRI in the past, and they've benefited from our social dealings in the past. So I hope you may not need our help in the future. I had a note here that we work with you in the future, but if you can go for yourself, I'm more than happy. So
we're always looking for help. We're under-resourced, and you guys are the experts. So any help you can give, we'd be happy with.
Yep, we'll be in contact in the future. So see what we can do. Next up, we've got Bryce Ott from the Mollingip community. We see Mollingip as one of our success stories of the previous Community Power Hub. One thing before I go on though, if you've got any questions or anything, please go into Q&A and chat and write them up there. We'll be going through that later on, and if they're up there early, it just gives me a bit of chance to look at them before we get to the Q&A session. So sorry, Bryce. So Bryce is from Mollingip, and Bryce is going to tell us some of the lessons learned that helped us made the success that Mollingip is. So over to you, Bryce.
Thanks, Paul, and thank you everyone for involving us in the session tonight. This is pretty exciting. I'm not as technologically adept as Matt, so Mari is in the background going to change slides for me. So if I'm going to apologize up front for saying next slide, please. But next slide, please. I'm going to start by just introducing you to Mollingip for the rare individual who isn't familiar with our community of 80 or so households. Actually, that's why we say Mollingip in district, because that gets us from 80 households up to a rousing 120. So we're very much an agricultural community. We're about midway between Ballarat and Daylesford. It's potato farming country. We have a fantastic mix of people in the community, from the farmers to people who've had big careers in Melbourne and decided to make a tree change, and everything in between. So this evening's session, if you want to switch for me, Mari, is just giving you some reflections on what worked for us as a community power hub. I know Paul said up front, and rightly so, I'm sure, that every community power hub is different and all have their own objectives. So I thought it might be useful to just talk in very broad terms about what drove our success and what worked for us. So I'm going to talk about the team, the purpose, engaging the community, getting the right help you need, casting a wide net, and being open to opportunities. And by the way, that's our very professional little logo for the group that we formed. So I'll start with forming a team. One caveat up front: that is not the team, that is a team that actually came out of the Community Power Hub from Breeze, and he was and continues to be extraordinarily helpful and engaged to us in Mollingip. So the principles I think about forming the team when you're creating a community power hub: make sure you represent the community. I mean, ours is quite diverse, but has very specific chunks. I mean, without representation of the farm community in Mollingip, it wouldn't work for Mollingip. And I think it's a really important principle to make sure you get the cross-section involved. Equally, including a diverse skill set. I come from a marketing and communications and brand background. We've got, Peter comes from an engineering background. We've got people who come from a farming background. People come from a huge project management and sustainable agriculture background. And all of those voices in the mix have been really important. But the one thing we all have in common is my third point about having a passionate interest, in our case, not just about sustainability, but about the viability and vibrancy of our community. We're really driven by community here, and sustainable energy is something that's something we all share. So I'll move on next to the purpose. Now, as a brand guy, I particularly think this is important. If you've got a rudder of why you're doing this, like what your vision is for your community power hub and how you want to drive your decisions, I think it's very valuable over the whole life of the project. So in our case, we had 4, which happened coincidentally to form a lovely little acronym of SEED, which is great for an agricultural community, but we wanted to make sure that everything we did was socially beneficial, in other words, fostering local cohesiveness and benefits as much as possible. Is important to our community, our district. We wanted to be economically effective. Farmers are very pragmatic people. If you don't have a solution that's going to make economic sense to them, it's not going to get up. And the same with the community more broadly. And then the last one is about being deliverable, just in a practical, pragmatic sense. We didn't want to pursue anything that was pie in the sky. We wanted to make sure it was going to actually be doable and we'd be able to pull it off and have it work for both households and farms. So the next one is in engaging the community, because in our case, it was absolutely all about working for the community broadly and bringing the community together. We have a fantastic community hall, which was the first slide, and it is the hub of our community. It's very real here. So we leveraged that with meetings at the hall. We put up posters, we send out newsletters, we did letterbox drops. That image on the left is an example of one of the newsletters that we sent out by email to people on our list and also via letterbox drops. So we made sure that the community who stood to benefit from what we were doing was aware of us and had the opportunity to get involved if they chose to. The next one is about getting help and advice, and Matt, I know, talked a lot about the value of Breeze's input in their project, and it's absolutely, I'll echo that. Peter Reed was involved with us from the beginning and continues to be. And that was just the beginning. Breeze has always been incredibly helpful to us, but I think there are lots of avenues to pursue in terms of getting advice and support for what you do. We're an example. Talking to other community power hub committees, we learned from each other. We needed consultants generating sustainable energy, and none of us are experts in that. So we found consultants who are experts in sustainable energy and got them involved in helping us quantitatively and in a disciplined way consider the options and evaluate the relative merits of different scenarios that we might pursue. Council is a really important part of the mix. And I mean, council always has a lot of really experienced, practical people who know the lay of the land and been really helpful to us. And then individual networks. I mean, we've found that every conversation we have had introduces us to someone else, increases our learning curve, and brings more people into the fold. So I can't emphasize enough getting people involved and talk it up. The next one from our perspective, and as Paul said, this will vary from group to group, but because we had a general objective of looking for sustainable energy solutions, we weren't tracked towards any one solution up front. So we looked at everything, and we got consultants involved who had the ability to look at all the options. And for us, it was really important that we avoid preconceptions. We stay open to whatever could potentially work and learn what we didn't know so far, and be prepared to keep that learning curve going. And that was really valuable for us. And we probably ended up with some things that we wouldn't have even been aware of, let alone have pursued if we hadn't stayed open to options. And then the last one, it reinforces that point. It's about being open to opportunities, because, well, what I wanted to cover there is not only did we end up with probably a short sustainable energy, but it opened, the Community Power Hub committee opened up all kinds of other opportunities. We got, because we were actively engaging with our community and specifically the farmers in the community, we built a relationship with them that tracked us into identifying some grant opportunities through Agriculture Victoria to give them opportunities to increase their sustainable infrastructure. And then that led us to form an actual company called Made Energy, which is involved in using anaerobic digestion to generate power and fertilizer, to produce power and fertilizer, which in a circular economy way loops back through the farmers and starts with their waste products and ends with power and fertilizer for them. And that's been supported by Agriculture Victoria, by the federal government, and continues to involve Breeze. Peter Reid is one of our team and is continuing to work with us. And it's just done a phenomenal job, not just in terms of sustainability in agriculture, but galvanizing the community, building our network, which continues to grow, and we're constantly exploring new ideas. So while we've kind of capped off the project of the Community Power Hub, it continues to inspire a way of working together as a community and is taking us in all sorts of new and exciting directions. So that's me. Thank you for your time.
That was great, Bryce. I really like the idea of building the community, and we'd love to do that as well, because building the community across sustainability and across everything is just so good, and for all the areas of Grampian. And also notice there appears to be kind of a repeat Mark we had on the last. Start off with small projects like solar on the community hall, and then evolved into much bigger projects. So get out there, identify some small projects, get your community working, and inspire them to bigger and better things. So I've got some Q&As coming in. We'll keep all those to the end, but yeah, keep rolling them in there. I think I can answer most of them, or we'll get someone to answer most of them. So nothing too tricky at the moment. So yeah, keep on going and we'll go through them at the end. Good to see. I'm glad we're getting lots of questions. So next up, I'd like to introduce you to Jerry Ham. I got to know Jerry and his work when I assisted Peter Reid again from Breeze with installation of solar panels on multiple units for Uniting. Breeze built up the relationship with Uniting through our social solar program and the CPH program, and then the GREP programs. Jerry, can you tell me a bit about yourself and the work that Uniting does?
Yes, thanks, Paul, and for the opportunity to be involved in tonight's forum. And good evening, everyone. So I'm a professional with 30 years plus experience working in the community services sector. I currently work for Uniting. Uniting was formed in 2017 out of the merger of 24 Uniting care agencies. And I've been involved in a variety of roles over the last 7 years, including time with one of Uniting's founding agencies, Wesley Mission Victoria. So Uniting provides a range of services to vulnerable and disadvantaged members of the community across Victoria and Tasmania. And in particular, my own role, which is as a group manager with operational responsibility for a portfolio of statewide housing and homelessness. And the particular project we worked on with Breeze involved what people may be more familiar with as two of the founding agencies, which were Uniting Care Ballarat and Uniting Care Wimmera.
Okay, and when the Grampians Renewable Energy Program was announced, Uniting was allocated some of the funding from Breeze. We'd identified some shovel-ready projects from previous work, and we knew we could expand this if required. what was the process you used to identify the units that would be targeted for solar?
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, Uniting was fortunate enough to be awarded $100,000 from the grant, which was just fantastic. So after I was first contacted by Peter Reid, a common theme there from the other speakers we've heard from this evening, the first step was for me to assemble a small project team from within Uniting and to meet Peter and learn more about the program. So one of this team was our tenancy manager with responsibility for our 300 units of social and community housing across the Grampians region. So they were tasked with the next step in the process, which was to involve them identifying which units of accommodation fitted the criteria to participate in the scheme, that being were they long-term social housing, were they wholly owned by Uniting, did they have individual meters and enough sound roof space to fit the solar panels onto. So once we had identified a group of properties in and around Ballarat and the Central Highlands, and also some properties in Horsham in the Wimmera, then we were able to provide Peter.
Okay. And who else was on your team that you had to put together to be involved in this project?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Well, look, I had to think about this question. I'll put my answer across from the perspective of identifying the functions that I believe were needed from within Uniting. And they were 1, project coordination, 2, tenancy management, 3, facilities management, 4, administration, and 5, finance. So I put that across because those are functions. So whether they are distinct individuals or combined functions within one person's role, obviously that's going to be dependent upon the size of the organization and the scope of the project. For us at Uniting, we're quite a large organization, and it did end up that that was, you know, different individual members of the project team. With hindsight, the one area we didn't include early enough was finance. And this does take centre stage alongside administration towards the latter stages of the project.
Okay. And so once the units we identified earlier that your site managers identified, how did you communicate with the clients and what information was required from them?
Well, the information we required, access to bill information and the national meter identifier, or the NMI, for each of the properties was required. And consent from our renters as the bill owner to participate in the project and share access to their data. Breeze had sample letters and approval templates for us to use as a start point. So we just adapted those to our own Uniting brand and use and sent them in the mail and to our renters, and our tenancy team were then able to be available renters as they arose.
Okay, and I know I was involved with this, so we evaluated that data because we got the bill information, got the annual data usage, etc. And so then we did, based on that, we did some sizing for solar panels and come up with an indicative price on that. And there was some good news and bad news that come from that. Can you tell the people what happened there?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, essentially, we found out that Uniting didn't actually wholly own enough of its own social housing to use up all the money in the initial grant. So much of our housing is managed stock, technically owned by the government, although managed by Uniting for many years. So that just simply involved us going through another step in the project whereby we actually had to reach out to government and seek approval to include government-owned properties as beneficiaries of the scheme. And then secondly, Solar Vic had to seek approval to apply the rebates to the government-owned housing. So once we had secured those approvals, we drew up a separate agreement with Solar Vic for our managed stock. And we were originally looking at including between about 15 to 20 Uniting-owned properties, but this expanded scope enabled us to install panels on 35 properties in the end and maximise the grant and all the Solar Vic eligible rebates we were able to receive.
Okay, and did Breeze manage those implementations for you?
No, absolutely. We managed the implementation with expert guidance from Breeze, from Peter and yourself, Paul, when you joined the team. Breeze had the project knowledge and the expertise to guide us on what we needed to do, but it was down to Uniting to undertake the implementation. So this included working with suppliers to obtain quotes, ensuring the process complied with the grant guidelines and Uniting's procedures, confirming installation schedules, liaising with our renters to gain access, and then the follow-up with the paperwork, certification, and the financial transactions between all parties once the installation was complete.
Okay, yeah, and so that's good news. So we installed solar panels on a number of units. Does the financial benefit go to the Uniting?
No, not to Uniting, no. The financial benefit of the solar savings flows directly through to the renters of our social housing.
Okay, and before we finish up, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, look, Paul, really just to thank Breeze, to echo the comments of Bryce and Matt about the support and, you know, the really fantastic guidance that Breeze have been able to provide to this project, specifically Peter and Paul, for including Uniting in this grant. This project had a real good feel-good factor to it. Although the project did run a little longer than we initially envisaged, COVID and the government housing elements being the main reasons for that delay, the project meetings were always something to look forward to, actually, and fun to be a part of. So to deliver what turned out to be $150,000 with the Solar Vic rebates of value to Uniting owned and government assets, flow financial savings through to the most vulnerable and in need people in our housing, and to do our bit for sustainability and the environment. Really, it was a win-win outcome all round. So just
time tonight, and that good story. And as Jerry stressed, I'd like to say I'm really pleased that we could get past some of those roadblocks, because I know that we have a lot of problems with getting things implemented because there are different roadblocks and different issues there in the past. And so this was one example of where we work with Uniting, we work with different state departments and got around those things. Now, it's not always easy to achieve, and I'm not sure, we're not saying we're going to achieve all these things in the future, but because we're working with community power hubs across Victoria, we're all running across similar problems and stuff, and we have regular meetings with the different state departments and with the major power companies. So we're trying to bring these issues up and solve these issues across the board. So yeah, and that was a very good project to start up with. So I'm glad to see. Thanks for your time, Jerry. We're still getting lots of questions coming in, and I'll try and address those at the end. Through the funds provided by Sustainability Victoria, the Grampians Community Power Hub has been able to employ 2 staff members. Sam Rogers has joined as a part-time person, part-time communications and admin officer. Sam has had previous experience on Green Living Coordinator for Wyndham Council, and she now runs the Breezes Smart Living Ballarat monthly talks. Sam's activities in the Community Power Hub include the coordination of all our social media and the organisation of our events, like the recent Grampians Community Power Hub launch. My roadshow will be going on to Horsham, Hindmarsh, Yarriambuck and West Wimmera in early December. Be here, but she did have responsibility of getting her children to bed, which looks like it may have taken over. So well, hopefully we might catch her up during the Q&A session later on. Also joining us tonight is our new project manager, Sonia is our and she's also our final presenter tonight, and will give you an insight in what the Grampians Community Power Hub is planning for the next few months and what we'd like from you. Soumya, can you please tell us about yourself and the Community Power Hub activities?
Yes, thank you, Paul, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing good. My name is Soumya. I have a background in sustainable energy, and I've previously worked for the Healthy Homes program just before starting with Breeze. For me personally, I've always believed that tackling climate change is quite a big task and requires every member of the community to be actively involved. And I see this, the Community Power Hub, as a really great platform to bring people together and to build a climate resilient community. And I'm quite honored actually to be here with everyone from Breeze and working with Hepburn Wind as well as Sustainability Victoria. Now I guess I can move on to the slides. So I'm working mainly to establish the Community Power Hub for the Grampians region, alongside our partners Breeze, Hepburn Wind and Sustainability Victoria. One of the key roles of the Community Power Hub is to engage with as many community members, groups and organizations as possible to discuss potential renewable energy projects that they wish to see implemented in the community. The Grampians Community Power Hub project ideas by providing enough information and also by undertaking feasibility studies in-house to be able to ensure their technical and financial viability. We also plan to undertake several small and medium complexity projects in-house, especially by implementing this new software that we've gotten our hands on called the Boom Power. Through this platform, we would mainly be able to implement more desktop analysis, let's say, for grid-connected solar and battery systems, and also be able to conduct energy audits and assessments for some community sites. So that would be quite useful for us, as we wouldn't technically have to go for an initial assessment to go into the site to be able to understand if it is a possible option for us to go ahead, or if it doesn't look like it's going to be technically, even financially feasible. Moving on to the next slide, please, Mari. Yes, thank you. So what I would like to emphasize, I guess, tonight is mainly about community engagement. We would like to very much establish a very active network of community members interested in powering their community assets with renewable energy. And the main function of the Community Power Hub is to provide assistance in developing these ideas to make them a reality. So we encourage everyone to come to us with ideas. They could be at any stage, and we will be able to develop these ideas. We have our volunteers, Mary, Paul, Peter, working for Breeze, assisting us to establish better engagement strategies with the community, and also Mari working with the Hepburn Wind, and myself, Soumya, and Sam as well. So please contact us, reach out to us if you've got any projects in mind that you would like to see implemented. Thanks, Mari. Now with the funding, so recently Sustainability Victoria has just announced the Sustainable Finance Mechanism, which is the repayable grant, which is available for most of the community, almost all of the community projects. Essentially, they act as a cash guarantee to secure a loan, and the grant funding of at least $50,000 will be available for each group. And more, I guess, information about the grants and other funding opportunities will be provided by us. And we will be putting up this information on the Community Power Hub website. So I guess if you require further information about grants when projects are at the implementation stage, please reach out to us, and I'm sure we will be able to help you with that. That's all from me, and thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And over to you, Paul.
Sorry, I need to remember to go off mute. So thanks, Soumya. So as Soumya mentioned, there's a lot of grants and stuff available. I want to stress that at this stage, the Grampians Community Power Hub, however, one of the major lessons learned from the first Community Power Hub and personal experience across other projects and community groups over all my life is that you need to set yourself up ready to be available, because quite often funds and grants and things become available. So by coming to the Community Power Hub, getting your feasibility study in place, then when the money is available, you're at a point you can go and grab it straight away, because quite often people announce grants and you've only got a month or two to get your feasibility study in. And if it's already in your hot little hands, you can go and grab that and go and get your money straight away. So yeah, come along, have a chat to us. So please keep the questions coming in. A lot of them look fairly simple. There was a chat there and I'll go through the chat first, and then I'll go through the questions and answers. They are fairly general and probably not directed too much as our presenters, but probably more to Soumya and myself, but we'll see how we go. But I will just make a note, because Daryl Sherger, who I've dealt with in the past, is very much into biomass, and we didn't talk very much about biomass today, but it is one of the things that we look at in the renewable energy field, and we want to keep looking at that. And I suppose we do all get it stuck in the mind of thinking of solar panels and batteries and wind farms, but we do encourage people to try and as Bryce said, think outside the circle, because I know what they're looking at Mollingip too is a biodigester type of thing, so that is outside the circle, outside the normal things people think about for renewables. So yeah, get started on the simple stuff, but also think about all those bigger things. And yeah, we'll be definitely keep in contact with Daryl and get his assistance. And anyone, Daryl is an expert. Yeah, we'll be in contact and we'll get Daryl involved as well. Now, moving on to those other Q&A questions. First one is, how much information do I need about a prospective project before I contact the Community Power Hub? Do you want to answer that, Soumya?
Yes, that's fine. I guess first we do need a sort of an idea coming from the community group. Once you do come to us with an idea, we would be asking you some questions on how you want to be implementing it, or where or what exactly you want to be doing. And we've got a set of questionnaires that we would ask you to fill out, just with basic information as to the ownership and where the site is, what you plan to do, or how much work has been previously done before, the general concept as such. And then we would start developing furthermore like an idea as to what the project could potentially be, and then look into the feasibility studies. So that's how the steps would be for a project idea to, I guess, from conception to, I guess, feasibility studies, yep, and then implementation. Yes.
So yeah, come to us, but even if you've got some vague ideas, you can always just give us a call and discuss, no, does this seem reasonable or whatever, and we'll work you through those steps. So we want to encourage everyone to contact as the first point of call, whether it's something's worthwhile proceeding with. We may be able to give you indication fairly quickly, but happy to contact you with any ideas or whatever. I'm not sure, a lot of these come up as anonymous attendee for me, so I'm not sure who I'm answering to, but is the Power Hub involved in community batteries? So I might answer this because we're looking at community batteries there. We're also working together with the Central Victorian Greenhouse Alliance, CVGA, who have got a neighbourhood battery grant from the state government. So we're looking at working to them to do some pilot programs on community batteries, and what we want, and from that, not only from them and from other community battery projects that go on and other community power hubs are working, we want to, it seems to be a real flavour of the month. So we'll be doing some projects on there, and we'll hopefully formulate a strategy to help communities do that going forward. Is there anything else they can think of, Sonia, or is it? Okay. The next question is, do you have to be a not-for-profit to be Community Power Hub? What it is called Community Power Hub, so we cannot really deal with businesses, etc., but I'm not really sure of, we're somewhat flexible in our definition of community and stuff too. So if you've got an idea, come and chat to us. If you're a business and you are, I'm still interested in hearing from you, because I might be able to put you in contact with someone who can help you anyway. Now, probably for you, Sonia, will the Community Power Hub help with funding for implementing projects?
In regards to funding, as I did mention before, we would definitely be undertaking feasibility studies and assisting you with the design of the project. And we will also be able to support you with some information about funding opportunities and other grants that are available. But the Community Power Hub as such will not be able to fund for the.
Okay. Yep. Is there a minimum kilowatt size for projects the Community Power Hub takes on? And so I believe that there's probably no minimum. Like we can do it on little community halls, so they can be small systems, etc., is my understanding. And so we'll go from small projects, 2 kilowatt systems on a community hall up, and we're assisting places like Nottingham and Longerenong College with 30 megawatt systems and stuff too. So we probably haven't got the knowledge for that. What I will say here is, unfortunately, Peter Reid has moved on to greener pastures. He's no longer working directly on the Community Power Hub now, but he's still acting as a consultant for us, and we're quite often in contact with him. So for any future projects, we deal with Peter, people like Ian Roster and John Van Ruden. So we still draw on people outside of our area of expertise here. We're a relatively new team, but we're drawing on a wider audience and other professional consultants to get that information in. We also, Taryn Lane from Hepburn Wind has acted as a consultant for the larger projects, etc. So we have got the right contacts. We still pull in people when we do need them. And there's a question for you, Matt. Is there scope for further renewables at McCallum?
There definitely is. One project that we were investigating was, we own a commercial laundry called McCallum Linen in Coronet Street, Wendouree, and it obviously uses a massive amount of energy. Power all the washers and things, and it uses an incredible amount of power. So we undertook a feasibility study with the help of Breeze probably 2 or 3 years ago now, I think. And to Daryl's point about using a biomass system, we did investigate that, but unfortunately with COVID, it obviously decimated the tourism industry and along with commercial laundries. So the board's appetite to invest capital in that business at the moment isn't great, isn't strong. So in that regard, it's probably on the back burner a little bit, but in terms of social housing, definitely we've got an appetite to invest in in solar and batteries at this stage, just so we can pass on those savings to our residents. That's the main point from our perspective.
Yep, and I love that from you and both Jerry. It's the renters, the end users that get the end benefit from all this, and so the environment gets a benefit, but I love the socially disadvantaged getting the benefits from this too, because they've missed out on some of the benefits of putting on solar panels. The people who haven't got the money to invest in putting solar panels cannot get the long-term returns on that. So it's great news that we're doing that. To Jerry, this is more, have you had any much feedback from your housing residents about how much the solar has helped them? I know on the latest project, it probably hasn't been very long yet, but.
No, that's right, Paul. That's the only reason why not. We actually didn't end up completing the project until really probably the last month or two, in fact. So there just hasn't been enough opportunity for some of those benefits to residents. But we do have a routine and regular way in which we collect feedback from our residents. So we will be looking to ask them that question in the very near future. And I think probably early into the new year should give us enough time for some of those benefits to flow through. So we'll be looking forward to that and hearing how that has benefited them.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see what feedback you do get and if they've noticed a difference to their power bills, etc. It is a strange time though, because with COVID and stuff, everyone's habits have changed, and that's what we've noticed in trying to analyse data and stuff too. We can't use the data from the last 12 or 18 months because it's a non-standard data set, so it's affected us in a lot of ways you haven't even thought about. There's another question here to Bryce. What's your best advice for any group looking to a similar project to your community hall solar project?
I think the only thing really that makes a community hall solar project different to any residential or any other solar project is the fact that the hall is kind of symbolically owned by the whole community. So you definitely want to get the consultants like the guys from Breeze to come out and talk to you about the best way to structure solar on wherever the building is, in whatever configuration it has, the need for power, the things that the power is going to drive, all the basic parameters of sizing and designing a suitable system. But the extra bit with the community hall is making sure that the community knows that you're doing it, has a voice in what you want to do and how you want to do it. Celebrate the benefit to the community of doing it at all, and getting them involved. Like we have a hall committee, and it's a very passionate, engaged group, and we do represent the community. So we talked a lot about these things because, you know, there are issues with our hall because the way it's configured, the way it looks, you didn't want people felt really strongly about not having solar panels and stuff being highly visible, because the feeling was it would conflict with the character of the hall. So there are a number of aesthetic concerns when it's owned by the community. So my best advice is get the community involved. Make sure people are talking about it in parallel with getting the professional advice for how you would configure a system, and do it collaboratively.
Yeah, that's great advice, and that's one thing we try and stress at Breeze. We like working with a small group directing it, but you have to have the whole community behind you, because that's what we're trying to build, is that community engagement across the wider community in the area. And in these smaller townships, it's really great to see the community out there working all together. So I'm really enjoying that when going out to talking to people. We're getting very close to the end of the time. So we might finish up there. Can you just put up the last couple of slides, Murray? So please identify where renewable energy might benefit your community, talk to your group and whatever, and get them on board and get in contact with us. So there's a form that you can fill in on that thing, or just as we had the different slides before, or just email us at grampianscph@breeze.org.au. So contact us with this. If you do have an idea for a community energy project, what is the next step? Fill in that form, give us an email, give us a call. We've spent a couple of months trying to get ourselves organised as a group and getting Sonia and Sam on board, and we're actually champing at the bit now to get some projects on board. So if you've got some, please contact us. So yeah, hopefully from the talks tonight, you can see that a small enthusiastic team can achieve a lot. While there is a lot to consider, with the help of Breeze and contacts throughout the Community Power Hub, we can assist you in your community to achieve a renewable future. And I'd just like to end up by thanking all of our speakers tonight for your time. Hopefully we can do this in person sometime coming up soon. And also like to thank Murray for running the webinar in the background tonight. So thank you all for your attendance. Please be in contact, and hope to see you over December and into the new year, and catch up with you soon. Thank you, everyone.